The training arena of the Galactic Military Academy sat deep inside a mountain on the planet. It was old, very old. The walls were made of black stone that had seen 10,000 years of combat. Thousands of alien species had trained here. Millions of soldiers had bled on its floor. And at the center of it all stood the creature they called the... No one knew where they came from. Some said it was made by an ancient race long dead. Others said it crawled out of the darkness between stars. It stood 3 meters tall on 4 massive legs. Its body was covered in thick plates of bone. 6 arms hung from its torso, each one ending in claws that could cut through metal. Its head was flat and wide, with dozens of small eyes that glowed red in the dim light of the arena. The never spoke. It never ate. It never slept. It simply waited in the arena, and when a trainee entered, it fought. For 10,000 years, the had challenged every trainee who came to the academy. It did not matter what species they were. It did not matter how strong or fast or smart they thought they were. The fought them all. It tested them. It pushed them to their limits. And when they fell, it stood over them and waited for them to rise or surrender. No trainee had ever defeated the... This was known. This was expected. The test was not about winning. It was about showing courage. It was about facing something impossible and not running away. Cole did not know any of this when he arrived at the academy. He was the first human to ever attend. His home planet, Earth, had only made contact with the galactic community 5 years ago. Humans were new. They were strange. And most aliens did not know what to make of them. Was 23 years old. He had brown hair cut short and tired eyes that had seen too much for his age. Back on Earth, he had been a soldier. He had fought in wars that most of the galaxy did not care about. He had lost friends. He had lost family. He had kept going because that was all he knew how to do. When the Galactic Council offered Earth a single spot at the Academy, had volunteered. He did not volunteer because he wanted glory. He did not volunteer because he thought he was special. He volunteered because he had nothing left to lose. The transport ship dropped him at the academy gates 3 days before the trial began. He carried one small bag with his belongings. He wore simple clothes that looked poor compared to the uniforms of the other trainees. When he walked through the gates, every alien turned to look at him. "That is the human," someone whispered. "So small," another said. "How does it survive?" Ignored them. He had learned long ago that words only hurt if you let them. The academy was massive. Hundreds of buildings spread across the mountainside. Training fields and combat rings filled every open space. Thousands of trainees moved between classes. They came from dozens of different species. Some were tall and thin with multiple limbs. Others were short and covered in thick armor. A few did not even have solid bodies at all. Found his room in a building near the edge of the campus. It was small, just a bed and a desk and a window that looked out at the gray sky. He sat on the bed and stared at his hands for a long time. He thought about home. He thought about the family he had buried. He thought about the friends who had died beside him in the mud of distant battlefields. He thought about the emptiness that lived inside his chest now, the place where his hope used to be. "Why am I here?" he asked the empty room. The room did not answer. The next morning attended his first classes: combat theory, weapons training, tactical analysis. The instructors were tall creatures with gray skin and 3 eyes. They spoke in flat voices and showed no emotion. They treated the same as every other trainee, which he appreciated. In combat practice, he was paired with a named, were large reptile-like creatures with thick scales and powerful tails. They were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors. Looked down at with obvious disgust. "I must fight this thing," he asked the instructor. "It will break." "Then you will have an easy victory," the instructor said. "Begin." Charged, he was fast for his size. His clawed hands reached for his throat. Stepped to the side. He grabbed his arm. He used the creature's own weight against it, pulling and twisting at the same time. hit the ground hard. Before he could rise, had his knee on his back and his arm locked around his neck. The arena went silent. Struggled, he was stronger than by far, but had leverage, had position, and had spent years learning how to fight things bigger than himself. Yield, said quietly. Went still, then he tapped the ground twice with his claw, the signal of surrender. Released him and stood. He offered his hand to help up, stared at the hand like it was a weapon. Then slowly he took it. How did you do that? Asked. His voice was not angry now, it was confused. Practice, said. That night word spread through the academy. The human had defeated in single combat. Some said it was luck. Others said the had let him win. But a few began to watch with new eyes. Over the following days, trained. He ran the obstacle courses that the instructors said no human could complete. He finished them. He sparred with trainees twice his size and held his ground. He studied tactics and strategy until his eyes burned. He did not do these things because he wanted to prove himself. He did them because they filled the empty hours. They kept his mind busy so he did not have to think about the things that hurt. The other trainees began to notice him more. Some approached with questions about his species. Humans were still new to the galaxy. Most aliens knew very little about them. How do you survive? A small insect-like creature asked him one day. You have no armor, no venom, no claws. Your senses are dull. Your muscles are weak compared to most species. Thought about the question. We endure, he said finally. We keep going when we should stop. We get up when we should stay down. That is what we do. The creature tilted its head. But why? What is the purpose of suffering beyond your limits? Did not have an answer. He had asked himself the same question many times. 3 days passed, then came the day of the trial. All 100 new trainees gathered in the great arena at sunrise. The black walls rose around them like the throat of some great beast. Torches burned along the walls, casting orange light that danced with shadows. At the center of the arena, on a raised platform of ancient stone, the waited. Had heard the stories by now. He knew what the was. He knew that no one had ever beaten it. He knew that trainees sometimes died in this trial, though it was rare. They seemed to know how hard to push without breaking them. The instructor who led the trial was an old creature with white fur and missing limbs. He had been running this trial for over 100 years. "They will test each of you," he said. His voice echoed through the arena. "When it challenges you, you will fight. You will show courage. You will show your worth. When you fall, do not be ashamed. Rising again is what matters." He paused and looked at them all. His eyes lingered on for a moment. "Begin," he said. The moved. It descended from its platform with terrible grace. Its 4 legs carried it across the arena floor. Its 6 arms hung ready at its sides. Those red eyes moved across the crowd of trainees, seeing everything. It stopped before a first, not but another one. The creature was big and strong and confident. It raised its claws and roared its challenge. The struck. What followed was not a fight. It was a lesson. The moved faster than anything that size should move. Its claws found every weakness. Its body twisted away from every attack. Within 30 seconds, there was on the ground, bleeding from a dozen small cuts. It was not dead. It was not even badly hurt, but it was beaten. They stood over it for a moment. Then it turned and moved to the next trainee. One by one, it challenged them all. Watched from the edge of the crowd. He watched the fight a creature made of living crystal. He watched it battle a being that could change its shape at will. He watched it defeat warriors who had trained their entire lives for this moment. None of them lasted more than a minute. It was not cruel. It did not enjoy causing pain. It simply tested them. It found their limits. It pushed them past those limits. And then it moved on. Hours passed. The sun crossed the sky above the open ceiling of the arena. More and more trainees fell. Some rose again and tried to fight. They allowed this. Others stayed down, too hurt or too afraid to continue. Finally, there were only a handful of trainees left who had not been tested. Was one of them. The turned toward their group. Its red eyes swept across them. It began to move. Felt his heart beat faster. His hands curled into fists at his sides. He thought about all the fights he had survived, all the pain he had endured, all the loss he had carried. He was not afraid to die. He had made peace with death long ago, but he was not ready to give up either. The passed by a tall creature with tentacles. It passed by a being made of pure energy. It passed by who stood with his scales bristling and his claws raised. It stopped in front of. Those dozens of red eyes looked down at him. The creature was so close that could feel heat coming from its body. He could see the ancient scars on its bone plates. He could hear the low rumble that came from somewhere deep inside its chest. Met its gaze, he did not look away. The stood very still. Its 6 arms hung at its sides. Its claws did not rise. The silence stretched on. Then slowly the lowered itself. Its 4 legs bent beneath it. Its great body sank toward the ground. Its flat head bowed until it nearly touched the arena floor. The knelt. The arena erupted in chaos. Trainees shouted. Instructors rushed forward. The old creature with white fur stared with wide eyes that showed more emotion than anyone had ever seen from him. Did not move. He stood before the kneeling and felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Confusion. The raised its head just enough to look at him again. Those red eyes held something that did not understand, something old, something deep. Then the spoke. Its voice was like stone grinding against stone, like thunder from beneath the earth, like a sound that had not been made in thousands of years. I have been waiting, it said, for you. The arena fell silent. Stared at the creature before him. His mind was empty, his heart was still. Waiting for me, he asked. His voice sounded small in the vast space. This many eyes did not blink. For one who carries the weight, it said. For one who has walked through fire and did not burn. For one who has lost everything and still stands. It paused. The silence was heavy. I have waited 10,000 years, the said, and finally you have come. Did not know what to say. He did not know what to feel. He only knew that something had changed. Something that could never be unchanged. The chaos continued around them. Voices called out questions. Bodies pushed closer to see, but in the remained still at the center of it all. Waiting. The old instructor with white fur pushed through the crowd. His name was, and he had served the academy for longer than most species lived. He had seen thousands of trials. He had watched the test countless warriors, but he had never seen this. Clear the arena, he commanded. His voice was steady but could see the confusion in his 3 eyes. Everyone out, now. The trainees did not want to leave. They wanted to see what would happen, but the other instructors moved through the crowd, pushing and herding them toward the exits. Slowly, the arena emptied. Only remained, and thus still kneeling on the ancient stone. Approached carefully. He kept distance between himself and though the creature had never harmed an instructor in all the years he had known it. He said, "What is the meaning of this? In 10,000 years you have never refused to fight, you have never spoken. What has changed?" The did not look at, its eyes remained fixed on. "The time has come," it said in that deep, grinding voice. "The prophecy speaks of the wounded one, the one who walks with death as a companion, the one who has lost all but still refuses to fall." Sfur bristled. "What prophecy? You have never mentioned any prophecy." The slowly rose to its full height. It towered over in both. Its 6 arms hung at its sides. "I was made to wait," the said, "made to test, made to find the one who would come. The ones who made me are long dead. Their empire fell to dust before your species was born, but they knew what was coming. They saw it in the patterns of the stars." Found his voice. I don't understand, I'm just a soldier, I'm nobody special. The turned its massive head to look at him directly. Something in those red eyes shifted. You believe this, it said. That is why you are the one. Those who seek power are never worthy of it. Those who carry wounds and still walk forward, those are the ones who change the shape of worlds. Change the shape of worlds, shook his head. I just want to finish my training, I just want to be useful. You will be more than useful, the said. You will be necessary, the darkness is coming. The ones who wait between stars have grown hungry. They will wake soon, and when they do, the galaxy will need a champion. Stepped forward, his voice was sharp. What darkness? What are you talking about? The finally looked at him. You have seen the reports, instructor, ships vanishing at the edge of known space, colonies gone silent, signals from the deep black that no one can explain. You have seen it. You simply do not wish to believe. Was silent, his 3 eyes blinked slowly. Thought about what he had heard in his briefings before leaving Earth. There had been whispers, rumors, stories of something strange happening at the fringes of the galaxy, but no one had taken them seriously. What are these things? Asked. The ones who wait between stars. They have no name that your voice can speak, the said. They are old, older than my makers, older than the first life in this galaxy. They sleep in the void, dreaming of hunger, and when they wake, they consume everything in their path. Why? Asked. Why do they do this? They do not know why, they simply are. As fire does not know why it burns, as darkness does not know why it swallows light. They exist and they hunger, and that is all. Felt cold despite the torches burning around the arena. And you think I can stop them? One human? That's insane. They made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was low and rumbling, like rocks falling in a deep cave. Not alone, never alone, but you will be the point of the spear, the heart of the resistance, because you have something that no other being in this galaxy has. What is that? The leaned closer. Its breath was hot and smelled of metal. You refuse to stay down, it said. Your species is young. You are weak compared to many. You have no natural weapons, but you have something else. You have fire in your souls. You fight when you should surrender. You hope when you should despair. You love so fiercely that you will die for those you care about. This is your strength. This is why the prophecy speaks of your kind. Thought about his friends who had died in battle. He thought about how they had kept fighting even when they knew they could not win. He thought about his parents, who had worked themselves to death to give him a better life. He thought about every human who had ever faced impossible odds and refused to quit. My people have a saying, he said quietly. It is not the size of the dog in the fight. It is the size of the fight in the dog. The nodded its great head. Yes, this is what your species understands. This is what the darkness does not. Strength is not measured in muscle or weapons or power. It is measured in will, in spirit, in the refusal to accept defeat. Had been listening in silence. Now he spoke. His voice was quieter than before. If what you say is true, then we have little time. How long until these creatures wake? Seasons, they said, perhaps less. The signs grow stronger. They stir in their sleep. Soon they will open their eyes, and when they do, nothing will stop their hunger. Then we must prepare, said. We must warn the council. We must gather our forces. The council will not listen, they said. They will call it fantasy. They will demand proof. By the time they believe, it will be too late. Then what do we do? The looked at again. We train the wounded one. We prepare him for what is coming, and we hope that he can do what no one else can. Stood in the center of the arena. His mind was spinning. He had come to the academy hopping to find purpose. He had not expected this. I don't know if I can do what you're asking, he said honestly. I'm not a hero. I'm not special. I'm just a man who has survived longer than he should have. That is exactly what makes you worthy, they said. Heroes think they cannot fail. They believe in their own greatness. When they fall, they break. But you, wounded one, you have already been broken. You have already lost everything, and still you stand. That is strength that heroes will never know." The words settled into like stones dropping into still water. He thought about all the times he had wanted to give up, all the times he had thought about just stopping, about letting the pain end. But he never had. He had kept going, not because he was brave, not because he was strong, but because he did not know how to stop. Maybe that was enough. "What do I need to do?" he asked. The rose to its full height, its bone plates shifted and clicked, its 6 arms spread wide. "First, you will learn what I know. Then you will teach others. You will build an army not of the strongest warriors, but of those who refuse to yield. And when the darkness comes, you will stand at the front of the line and show them what it means to fight a human." Moved closer too. His expression was hard to read. "This is not what I expected when you arrived," he said. "I confess I did not think much of your species. You seemed so fragile, so limited." "We are fragile," said, "but we are also stubborn." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I am beginning to understand this." The sun was setting outside the arena. The torches cast long shadows across the ancient stone. In that moment, standing between an alien instructor and a creature that had waited 10,000 years for him, felt something stir inside his chest. It was small, it was faint, but it was there. Hope. He had thought that part of him was dead. He had buried it with his family, with his friends, with everyone he had ever loved. But somehow, impossibly, it had survived. Just like him. "When do we start?" he asked. This many eyes gleamed in the torchlight. "Now," it said. News spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. The had knelt to the human. The had spoken for the first time in 10,000 years. Something impossible had happened. The trainees did not know what to make of it. Some were jealous. Some were suspicious. Some were afraid. They gathered in small groups and whispered about what they had seen. Found that night in the dining hall. They sat down across from him without asking permission. "What happened in there?" he demanded. "What did they say to you?" Looked at his food. He had not eaten much. His mind was too full. "It said I was the one it was waiting for." "The one what?" "I don't know exactly. Something about a prophecy, something about darkness coming." Scales rippled. Among this was a sign of unease. "I have heard stories," he said quietly. "Old stories from my, tales of things that live in the empty spaces between stars, things that eat worlds." The mentioned something like that. Leaned closer, his voice dropped to a whisper. "My grandmother told me these stories when I was young. She said they were real. She said her grandmother had seen one long ago, a shadow that blocked out the stars, a hunger that could never be filled." Felt a chill run down his spine. What happened to her grandmother? "She died," said. "They all died. An entire colony gone in a single night. My grandmother was the only survivor. She was a child hiding in a cave. She watched from the darkness as the shadow swallowed everyone she knew." The dining hall suddenly felt very cold. "If these things are real," said, "then we need to be ready for them." Nodded, his eyes were hard. "When I saw the kneel to you, I thought it was some kind of trick, some kind of mistake. But now I think I understand. You are not the strongest here. You are not the fastest but there is something in you, something I saw when you defeated me in our first match." "What is that?" "You do not know how to give up," said. "I could feel it when we fought. Your body was weaker than mine. Your reach was shorter, but you did not stop. You refused to accept that you could lose. That kind of will is rare. That kind of will can change things." Did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as special. He had only done what he had to do to survive. "The wants to train me," he said finally. "It wants me to lead others against whatever is coming." Was silent for a long moment. Then he placed his clawed hand flat on the table. "Then I will follow you," he said. "I do not know if the stories are true. I do not know if you are the one the prophecy speaks of, but I saw the kneel. In 10,000 years it has never knelt to anyone. That must mean something. Looked at the. He saw the determination in those reptilian eyes. He saw the courage it took for a proud warrior to offer his loyalty to a stranger. Thank you, he said. I don't know if I deserve it, but thank you. Nodded, you will learn to deserve it. That is what training is for. In the days that followed, things began to change. No longer attended the regular classes. Instead, he trained with in the great arena. They started before dawn and finished after dark. The ancient creature taught him things that no instructor knew. It taught him how to move like water, flowing around attacks rather than blocking them. It taught him how to strike at the weak points that every creature had, no matter how armored they seemed. It taught him how to use his small size as a weapon, slipping inside guards and finding angles that larger fighters could not reach. But the physical training was only part of it. They also taught him about the darkness that was coming. It showed him images carved into the walls of hidden chambers beneath the arena, images of shadows that swallowed stars, images of creatures so vast that planets looked like pebbles beside them, images of civilizations burning. They have come before, the said as studied the carvings. Many times, each time they consume everything, each time the galaxy must rebuild from nothing. How do we stop them? Asked. We cannot stop them. They are beyond physical destruction. You cannot kill a hunger. You cannot slay a emptiness. Then what is the point? Why fight at all? The turned to face him. Its red eyes glowed in the darkness of the chamber. Because they can be driven back. They can be made to sleep again. Their weakness is simple, wounded one. They do not understand sacrifice. They do not understand hope. They do not understand why a being would die for something greater than itself. These things confuse them. These things weaken them, and that is why you must lead. Because humans understand sacrifice. Because humans live sacrifice. Your species is young. You have not been dulled by ages of existence. You still feel everything with terrible intensity. Your love burns bright. Your grief cuts deep. Your courage comes from a place that older species have forgotten how to reach. Thought about this. He thought about the humans he had known, the soldiers who had thrown themselves on explosives to save their friends, the parents who had worked themselves to death for their children, the ordinary people who had done extraordinary things simply because they could not accept doing nothing. I think I understand, he said. Understanding is the first step. Now you must teach others to feel what you feel. That is the harder task. Word of training spread. Trainees began to gather at the edge of the arena to watch. They saw the human fight they saw him fall again and again, and they saw him rise every single time. One by one, they began to approach him. Was the first to officially ask to train with. They accepted him. Then came a small creature named, who was made of living metal and could change shape at will. Then came a being called Whisper, who was mostly invisible and moved like wind. Then came others. They trained together, they fought together, they learned to work as one. The instructors did not know what to make of this. The academy had rules and traditions and schedules. Training broke all of them, but kept the other instructors at bay. Let them train, he said when questioned. Something is coming. Even if I do not fully believe this prophecy, I believe that we face threats we do not understand. And if this human can prepare others for those threats, then we should not stand in his way. Weeks passed. The small group of trainees grew larger, trained them not in the formal techniques of the academy, but in the desperate tactics of human warfare. He taught them to fight dirty. He taught them to use every advantage, no matter how small. He taught them that survival mattered more than honor. Honor is for after the battle, he told them. During the fight there is only victory or death. Choose victory. Some of the trainees struggled with this. Their species had traditions, rules about warfare, codes of conduct that had existed for thousands of years. Those codes assume your enemy shares them, said. The darkness will not follow rules. It will not care about your traditions. It will try to consume you, and you will either stop it or you will die. There is no middle ground. Slowly, they began to understand. And slowly, began to feel something he had not felt in a very long time. He began to feel like he belonged. These trainees were not human. They did not share his blood or his history or his world, but they shared something else. They shared purpose. They shared determination. They shared the willingness to face something impossible and refuse to look away. That was enough. That was everything. The day everything changed came without warning. Was training with his squad in the arena when the sky turned dark. Not the darkness of night, something else, something wrong. They all stopped and looked up. Through the open ceiling of the arena, they could see the stars going out. One by one, like candles being blown out by an unseen wind, the lights in the sky vanished. The move to stand beside, its great body was tense. Its bone plates clicked and shifted. They wake, it said. The devourers have opened their eyes. Alarm sirens began to scream across the academy. Trainees and instructors poured out of buildings, all of them looking up at the dying sky. Watched the darkness spread. He felt fear, cold and heavy, settling into his bones, but beneath the fear something else stirred. That small flame of hope he had felt in the arena, the one he thought was dead, it was still there, and it was growing. Get to the shelters, someone was shouting, get underground. But did not move, neither did his squad. What do we do? Asked. His voice was steady but could see the tension in his scales. Looked at the spreading darkness. He looked at the terrified faces around him. He looked at the, waiting patiently for his decision. We fight, he said. That's what we trained for, that's what we're here for. Against that, gestured at the sky, we're supposed to fight that. Not fight, it said. Not yet. First we protect people, we organize, we find others who are willing to stand with us. And when the time comes, yes, we fight it. How? Whisper's voice came from somewhere to his left. The creature was nearly invisible, just a shimmer in the air. Thought about everything they had told him, about sacrifice, about hope, about things the darkness did not understand. We remind them what they're up against, he said. We show them that we won't give up, we won't run, we won't hide. We will stand and fight until our last breath, and then we'll fight some more. That's how humans do things, and that's how we're going to do this. The squad looked at him. Then one by one they nodded. We're with you, said, to the end. To the end, the others echoed. Turned to face the darkness spreading across the sky. His heart was pounding, his hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. Then let's get started. The evacuation of the academy took 3 days. And his squad worked without rest. They guided trainees to the deep shelters beneath the mountain. They helped instructors move supplies and weapons. They stood watch at the gates while the darkness crept closer overhead. The stars were gone now. The sky was just a vast emptiness, darker than any night. And in that emptiness, shapes began to move. Huge shapes, impossible shapes. Things that made the eyes hurt and the mind twist just from looking at them. Don't stare at them, told his squad. Keep your eyes on the ground, on the people, on the work. What are they doing? Asked. The metal creature's form kept flickering, shifting through different shapes as if it could not decide how to feel. They're feeding, the said. It had not left side since the darkness began. They start with the stars, then they move to the planets, then to anything that lives. How long do we have? Days, perhaps hours. They move at their own pace. Time means nothing to them. The last of the trainees entered the shelters. The massive doors ground shut behind them. Now only squad remained on the surface, along with the end. The old instructor looked exhausted. His white fur was matted and dirty. His missing limbs seemed to ache. The council has been informed, he said. Fleets are mobilizing across the galaxy. but they do not know what they face. They think ships and weapons will be enough. Will they listen if we tell them? Asked. No, they must see for themselves. They must fail before they understand. Nodded grimly. Then we need to be ready when they do understand. We need to have something for them to rally behind. You mean yourself, said. I mean all of us. Everyone who is willing to fight differently. Everyone who is willing to sacrifice. Studied him for a long moment. When you arrived, I thought you were a mistake, a token gesture by the Council to include your species. I thought you would fail and prove that humans did not belong here. And now I think you might be the only chance any of us has. A roar split the air. Everyone turned to look at the sky. One of the shapes in the darkness had detached from the others. It was descending toward the planet, toward them. It was vast, miles across, a mass of shadow and hunger given form. As it came closer, could feel it pushing against his mind. It wanted him to despair. It wanted him to give up. It wanted him to lie down and accept being consumed. He refused. Get to the shelters, he told. Keep everyone calm, we'll handle this. You cannot fight that. We're not going to fight it. We're going to send it a message. Looked like he wanted to argue. Then he looked at the determination on his face. He looked at the squad standing behind him, ready to follow wherever he led. Good luck, he said, and retreated toward the shelter entrance. Turned to his squad. They were afraid. He could see it in their eyes, in the trembling of their bodies, in the tension that filled the air. But they were still standing. They were still with him. I'm not going to lie to you, he said. This might kill us. This probably will kill us. But we have to try. We have to show them that someone is willing to stand. Why? Whisper asked. The usually confident creature sounded small. Because that's how it starts. One person stands, then another joins them, then another, until there are enough to make a difference. We might be the first, but we won't be the last. Stepped forward. His scales were rippling with barely controlled fear, but his voice was strong. I told you I would follow you to the end, he said. I meant it. Whatever happens here, I am proud to stand with you. As am I, said. And I, Whisper added. One by one, the others voiced their agreement. Felt warmth spread through his chest despite the cold of the approaching darkness. Then let's give them something to remember. He turned to face the descending shape. It was closer now. He could see the way it consumed the light around it, the way it twisted the very fabric of space. And he felt something stir inside him, something that had mentioned but never fully explained. A power that came from will, from determination, from the absolute refusal to yield. It started as warmth in his chest. Then it spread, running down his arms, filling his hands. When he looked down, his fingers were glowing with faint light. What is happening? He whispered. The moved to stand beside him. Its voice was filled with something that might have been satisfaction. You are awakening. This is the gift my makers left for the one they, the power to resist the darkness, not with weapons or ships, with pure will. The light grew brighter. It spread from to the others, touching each of them, igniting something that had always been there but never known. The shadow descended. It reached out tendrils of pure emptiness toward the academy. And raised his glowing hands. No, he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried, it echoed. It filled the space between him and the darkness. You don't get to have this. The tendrils stopped. The shadow recoiled. These people are not your food. This world is not your meal. You have taken enough. It ends here. The darkness pushed back. Felt it hammering against his will, trying to find cracks, trying to find weakness. It showed him images of everyone he had lost. It made him feel the grief and the pain and the emptiness all over again. But he had lived with that grief for years. He had carried that pain every day. It was not a weakness anymore. It was strength. I know what loss feels like, he said. I know what it is to have everything taken from you, and I know that you can survive it. You can keep going. You can find reasons to fight even when it feels like there's nothing left. The light from his hands grew brighter still. It began to push back against the darkness. That's something you don't understand, continued. You only know how to consume. You don't know how to create. You don't know how to love. You don't know how to hope. And that's why you'll never win. Because no matter how much you take, there will always be someone left who refuses to give up. The shadow screamed. It was not a sound. It was a feeling, a wave of pure rage and hunger that swept across the mountain. Windows shattered, stone cracked, the ground shook. But stood firm. His squad stood with him, and the light kept growing. With a final, furious pulse of darkness, the shadow, it rose back into the sky, back toward the other shapes waiting there. And for a moment, just a moment, could have sworn he saw something like fear in its movements. Then he collapsed. Woke in a bed he did not recognize. The ceiling above him was white. Medical equipment beeped quietly nearby. His body felt empty, like someone had scooped out everything inside and put it back wrong. "You are awake," a voice said. He turned his head. The stood at the foot of the bed, somehow fitting its massive form into the small medical room. "What happened?" "You drove back a devourer. With will alone, you forced one of them to retreat. In all the ages since my makers walked the stars, I have never seen such a thing." Tried to sit up. His arms shook from the effort. "The others?" "Your squad survived. They are resting. They too channeled the power, though not as strongly as you." "And the darkness?" "Still there, still waiting, but different now. They felt what you did. They are uncertain. They have never encountered resistance like this." Looked at his hands. They looked normal now. No glow, no power, just ordinary human hands. "How do I do it again?" "You will learn, we will train. And when you are ready, you will teach others." Thought about the darkness in the sky. He thought about the billions of lives across the galaxy that did not know what was coming. He thought about everything that could be lost. "How long do we have?" "The devourers are cautious now. They will not attack again until they understand what they face. That gives us time, weeks, perhaps months." "It's not enough." "No, but it is a beginning." Lay back against the pillow. He was exhausted in ways he had never been before, but his mind was already working, already planning. "We need to spread the word. We need to find others who can do what we did. We need to build an army of people who won't give up." "Yes. And I need to get stronger. I need to understand this power better." "Yes. And we need to figure out how to put those things back to sleep permanently." They made that grinding sound that might have been a laugh. "One step at a time, Wounded One. You have already accomplished the impossible. Anything else is simple by comparison." Closed his eyes. He thought about his family, his friends, everyone he had lost. For so long their memories had been a weight that dragged him down. Now somehow they felt different. They felt like fuel. "I'm going to save everyone I can," he said quietly. "I'm going to make sure no one else feels what I felt. No more families destroyed. No more children orphaned. No more grief." "That is a large promise." "I know, but I'm going to keep it anyway." They stood in silence for a long moment. Then it lowered its great head in something like a bow. "I believe you will try," it said, "and trying is the first step to succeeding." Opened his eyes and looked at the ancient creature. "Thank you," he said, "for waiting, for believing I could be something more than I thought I was. I only saw what was already there. You did the rest." Footsteps sounded in the hallway. A moment later appeared in the doorway, followed by an Whisper and the others. They were tired and worn but alive. "You're awake," said. Something in his voice sounded relieved. "We were worried." "It takes more than that to keep me down." Smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Yes, I am learning this about humans." They gathered around the bed, looked at each of them, these creatures who had become his friends, his family. "Are you ready?" he asked. The hard part hasn't even started yet. Looked at the others, then back at. We're with you, he said, to the end, whatever that looks like. Felt that small flame of hope in his chest burn a little brighter. Then let's save the galaxy. The darkness still waited in the sky. The devourers still hungered. The future was uncertain and dangerous and possibly very short. But for the first time since his family died, Cole felt like he had a purpose, a reason to keep going, a reason to get up every morning and fight. And that was the most human thing of all. In the weeks that followed, word spread across the galaxy. The human had stood against the darkness. The human had driven back a devourer with nothing but will. The human was gathering an army. Some laughed, some dismissed it as rumor, some said it was impossible. But others listened. They came from every corner of known space, warriors and scholars and ordinary people who were tired of being afraid. They came to the academy to the mountain where they waited. They came to learn how to fight like humans. Trained them all. He taught them about sacrifice, about hope, about the strength that came from refusing to give up even when giving up made sense. He taught them that the darkness could be resisted, that courage was contagious, that one person standing could inspire millions. Some learned quickly, others struggled, but all of them grew. And slowly the army took shape. The Galactic Council finally began to listen when 3 more devourer attacks were repelled by soldiers had trained. The evidence could not be. Something new was happening, something that gave the galaxy a chance. Stood on a platform overlooking the training grounds, thousands of beings trained below him, creatures of every species from every world, all united by a single purpose. Joined him at the railing. The scouts report the devourers are massing at the edge of known space, he said. They are preparing something big. Nodded, I know. Are we ready? No, but we never will be. That's not the point. What is the point? Looked out at the army he had built, at the beings who had learned to stand when everything told them to run. The point is to try anyway, he said, to fight even when you can't win, to keep going until your last breath and then find a way to keep going after that. That's what being human means, and that's what I've taught all of them. Was silent for a moment, then he placed his clawed hand on his shoulder. For what it is worth, he said, I am glad the Knelt to you. I am glad I was wrong about your species. Smiled, so am I. The darkness waited at the edge of space. The final battle approached. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. But in the mountain where they had waited 10,000 years, an army of the willing prepared to stand. And at their head, a wounded soldier from a small planet called Earth looked up at the empty sky and refused to be afraid. Some battles were won with weapons, some were won with tactics, some were won with superior numbers or technology or strength. But this battle would be won with something simpler, something older, something that the darkness had never encountered before. It would be won with hope. And that was something humans had in unlimited supply. The end was not really an end. It was a beginning. And Cole, once a broken soldier with nothing left to lose, stood at the start of it all, ready to show the universe what humanity could do. The watched from the shadows, its ancient eyes gleaming with something that might have been pride. It had waited 10,000 years. And the waiting had been worth it.